Dolphin fans. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another one. Already over 100 of you in the room. Please smash that like button on the way in. As usual, help me out with my friend Al, everybody's pal, my friend Al Algorithm. Help me out, smash that like button. I appreciate all of y'all for coming in on this Tuesday night. Don't worry, we will all cope together that we weren't at the Luau with Tua yesterday. We'll go over it. We'll talk about some of the points that came out of it, and maybe we'll talk about what may happen next year, because your boy, he is... I don't think I'm missing another one. Now, it kind of worked out because it did rain yesterday, so the Luau got moved inside. So, but it still looked like a blast, looked like a fun time. We'll go over that tonight. We'll talk about some things that came out of it because, man, including Tua's mustache. How phenomenal is that, huh? My God, how phenomenal is that? He is an absolute legend right now. I don't know what else to say. Let's be honest, man. The guy, I posed this question on Twitter. So I'm going to pose it here for y'all because it's really only fair that I do that. All right. I need to know who wore it better. Tua last night. Who wore it better? Tua last night or Vincent Kennedy McMahon? All right? Let me know who wore the Stache better in the comments, either now or after. Let me know who wore it better, Vincent Kennedy McMahon or Tua Tagovailoa. All right? Let me know. My Lord. Look at... Vince, what have you done to yourself, huh? What have you done to yourself? I know everyone's going to vote for Tua. I get it. But who wore it better? Let me know. Shout out to Rome Gray for being the only one who's out here with the cojones to vote for Vince. I love it, baby. I love it. Love it. I'm just asking the simple questions. Who wore it better? You let me know. All right? Vince McMahon out here looking like, an aged Zorro. While Tua out here looking like a young, handsome Dwayne Johnson. All he needs is the fanny pack and we're good to go. Unbelievable stuff. Who wore it better? I want you to let me know in the comments. Who says we don't have fun on this channel, man? Who wore it better? Let me know. Shout out to all of y'all. Tua with the dad stash. It's fantastic. We all change some way, all right? Because I'll be honest, before my kids, I had a chin strap. Now I'm sitting here looking like, I'm a Nordic Viking. So, it is what it is. Shout out to all of y'all in the comments. Again, over 160 of you in the room. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. You already know what time it is. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Let's give y'all a shout out. Marino's GOAT. Pro Special. Shout out to the homie Brian. Luther Small has just subscribed. Shout out to you, Luther. Thank you for subscribing. Jeremiah Kelly. Who else we got? Aladino. Shout out to Aladino and happy birthday to his son. It's his son's birthday. So shout out to you and shout out to your son. David Figley. Rome, the homie Rome. How you doing, good sir? Jason, how are you doing? Larry L, how are you, sir? Andre, Villarreal, Knight. D Hugga. What's going on, homie? See, I hope all y'all notice if you're, a channel member, your logo changes over time. Go look at D Hugga's logo in the comments right now. Your logo, if you remember, the longer you stay, your logos evolve like the team's logo. We start all the way from the first logo, and the longer you go, you will eventually evolve into the logo they use today. It's if you actually a little detail about my memberships, if you ever take a look at that. So. Shout out to, it's always the details. Attention to details, baby. Shout out to Samuel Rosa. How you doing? Homie Austin's in the house. How you doing, brother? Trapstar, how you doing? I'm a TRAPSTR. Robbie Ralph, Robert Thomason, Andrew Harris, Hugo, Jeff Premont. How you doing? How are y'all doing tonight? Denisha, Troy, Kurok. Not Turok, Kurok. Shout out to you. Chris Solo, how are you? Ben, how are you doing tonight? Ryan, how are you? Good, sir. King Z305, what's going on, homie? Randy, Constance, how are you doing? One of the day ones, been down. Kevin Santos, Paulie King, how are you doing? Joe Cobb, JB, Darth Sadik. So we all the darks come here, apparently. Welcome to the dark side. Scott Stevens, how are you doing on this evening? Corey, how are you? Kevin Clements. Russell, I think I shouted you out, Russell. Grant, Big Heck. The Wayne D Experience. Jason Myers, Rob 2020, Ryan Dunn, Anthony, Michelle. How are you doing, Michelle? Hope you're having a fantastic week thus far. Oh, same with you, Anthony. Tony, how you doing, Tony? That's you, Anthony. Topher, because your name's just so Italian. I love it. How you doing, Troy Nuke, Corey P, Kels? What's going on? Knight says, reason these Twitter babies had me going to listen. I used to waste my time on Twitter, and then I looked around and I realized all this time I spent just driving people into the ground on Twitter and just annihilating them. I could spend that time with my wife and my family, or making this show better, or putting this show together. You know, that's why I've fallen back on Twitter. They ain't worth it. And let's be honest, I made the right choice because Elon is ruining that platform. Don, I shouted you out, right, Don? Even I didn't. There's your shout out, Don. How you doing? Gilbert! What's going? Gilbert. How you doing? Shout out to all of y'all. Hope everyone is having a fantastic start to your week. 2 days in. Hump days tomorrow. With hump day comes the finish line. Me, Richmond Webb, Mr. Ballgame. We will all be live tomorrow following, and Richmond will be talking about the cruise and everything that went down because he was on that cruise. You know, there's a couple of people that are on the cruise that push Superfan to the abnormalcy, and I told the boy Richmond, I said, man, make sure you don't put your drink down and let these people know your room number, some of these people, okay? So shout out to Richmond. We'll talk about his experience on the cruise tomorrow, plus a whole plethora of other things. Ball game will be there tomorrow, and then Thursday, Fin Too Deep. We'll dive back in. Me and Neil, it's always a good time, especially as draft is getting closer. We keep you locked in on the draft all year round. And then I will be dropping my linebacker big board this weekend, most likely Sunday like we've been doing. And if anything happens on Friday or Saturday in between, you can bet your bottom dollar Reason will be live and we'll talk about it. And it seems like we need to do a panel soon, a pre-draft open panel. Maybe we'll do that soon. And we're going to have to do an open panel for all y'all after the draft to hear our guys' picks. And like we do every year, every single year, and it's really easier when we draft 4 players. But usually every year I select a handful of players that I do in-depth prospect profiles on, where I do even more 20 if they were in my top, because Reason hits a lot. So even if they were in my top 5, I add more film, right? Like Jalen Phillips remember Jalen Phillips was my number 2 edge rusher that year coming out, and if you go back and listen to my evaluation, he would have been number 1 if he didn't have any issues coming out of UCLA with the head stuff, right? I said, you know, if Ojulari, who was my number 1, I said if Ojulari and him run an even health or unhealthy playing field, because I didn't know about Ojulari's combine check that actually ended up having him slide. He had a knee injury, I believe, but I said in my evaluation without knowing about Ojulari, if they were on an even playing field with health, Jalen Phillips number 1 overall. Anyways, the whole point is, you know, you only got about a minute and a half worth of all 22. Well, I put together about like over 5 minutes worth of all 22 when I did. Same thing with Javon Holland, right? You know, people remember I was talking about Javon Holland on this channel. I've been talking about Javon Holland since 2019, and I've been talking to him on this channel since 2020. All right, so I did a super in-depth. I did actually, like, I had him on, I remember in October 2020, I did, so to his rookie year, right? I did a video for everyone. Maybe I'll bring it back this year, but top 25 players Dolphin fans should be watching through the college season heading into the draft. And he was like number 9 or number 10 on that list. So, and that's, you know, we had Bobby McCain and everything like that, but Javon Holland was just that good. And he is a Dolphin, and he is a stud, and I love every single freaking minute of Javon Holland. Oh, my God. This year he's going to take another step. Shout out to Dawn for the $5 donation. Says, best show on the planet. I humbly appreciate your compliment, my friend, as well as I appreciate your donation. King Z305, this is a topic that I want to talk about right now. Devin White. See, this is where I don't think you can buy in on PFF. All right. Now, if you go by PFF grades, it would tell you that Devin White hasn't just slipped the pass, but he's garbage. And I don't believe that. All right. I think Devin White he's still got that stud ability in him, right? He started to dip when he started complaining about his money a little bit. Now he's gone. I mean, if anyone wants to sit there and tell me they would take Jerome Baker over Devin White, we got to have a serious conversation, especially under the guise of Vic Fangio and in this defense. Are you crazy with me right now? Devin White and David Long on the unbelievable stuff. Now, Devin White, I believe, wants to get paid. Devin White, let's be honest. I know Dolphin fans want every linebacker. Let's see how the draft plays out. All right, because we're all talking about defensive tackle. You're welcome. We're all talking about offensive tackle. You're welcome. When everyone was originally talking about tight end, even had me going there for a little bit. And then my sources came out and said, hold up, young sir. And now everyone is on those bandwagons. Right? So we talked about all this stuff, and linebacker was one that we could circle back around. We know they love Ounpapo. We know they love DeMarvion Overshown. And DeMarvion Overshown, I don't know if he's going to be there at 84. That's a 51. And I agree with Rome. Listen, is absolutely an upgrade, but I agree with him right now. You got to worry about extending. You got to figure out the Wilkins stuff before you trade for Devin White. Because if you're going to just piss off that camp if you go trade for Devin White and then pay him. There's guys in this draft, too, that could be Owen Papo, DeMarvion Overshown. What if Jack Campbell slips? I don't think so. Jack Campbell, he's spoiler alert, he's linebacker 1, okay? I think Trent Simpson's the one that I think is going to slip to 51. That's the one that I think has a better chance of slipping to 51. If you were to say reason, who would be there at 51? Trenton Simpson or Jack Campbell? I think Simpson will be there at 51 instead of Jack Campbell. Still a stud, though. But there will be players there. Jason, how many do we need? It's simple. Jerome Baker's not going to be on this team after this year. You don't know what Channing Tindall is. Channing Tindall is still a mystery. David Long, based on histories, with nicks and bumps, can miss time. See where we're starting to go here? We've only named 3? Right? Duke Riley. Let's have a conversation. Is he a long-term solution on linebacker? No. He got signed as a depth piece, but more so what he provides on special teams. Jack Campbell's there at 51. The man just won the Butkus Award. I want you to go back and look at all the Butkus Award winners and how many of them translated to the NFL. It's one of the most translatable awards at the collegiate level. Remember, we have holes filled, but in certain holes, like linebacker we just said, and running back is another example, we don't have long-term solutions, right? That's the issue. We've got certain holes filled, but we don't have long-term solutions at said holes filled. Also, remember, Channing Tindall, drafted under a different regime, not a Fangio pick. Now, I still believe Channing Tindall has the skill set and the tools to be in the NFL, but let's go back to what we covered this offseason. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Okay, this is a good conversation because you made a good point. So this is a good conversation to have because you did make a good point. We drafted, blah, blah, blah. We've got all these guys. So you made a good point. I'm just expanding on it. Let's remember Channing Tindall had serious struggles picking up the playbook last year, friends. So now where are we at? A new coordinator, new playbook, new terminology. Logic has got to tell you, not back to square one, but we've probably taken a couple steps back and we're back in the learning stage. And also remember, this player isn't a player who had a ton of experienced reps at the collegiate level, so he needs the reps. He needs to get on the field. See, I will say this. I think Eazy-E is a little bit more complete. The only reason we haven't seen Eazy-E is because of his route tree, but David Figley does make a good point. In the same way, Eazy-E is not developed with his route tree at an NFL level, Channing Tindall clearly is not developed at a understanding and comprehending NFL playbooks and terminology at the NFL level yet. And I'm sure he'll get it. But those are all out of his mouth. Like, he literally said that he had a really problems. You know, this isn't a Tua thing, right? Like, where people were just nitpicking. This man was, like, blatant with it. It was in a, you know, he was asked why you didn't get snaps. And he said he had real problems picking up the playbook. Tua never said he had problems picking up the playbook like that. So, and, okay, and you do make a good point. Throw him in the deep end, sink or swim. Here's the problem with that. They are in win now mode. They can't afford too many sinkers. And if they throw you into the deep end in game one and you sink right away, why do you think Noah ain't been seeing time? And why do you think Noah ain't going to see time this year? Because his team has believed they can win games. Noah's only seen time due to every man in front of him falling down with some sort of ailment or injury. Right? With a healthy room, when we did the math last year, Noah Igbenogany was like CB6, CB7. Just saying. So right now, especially with how we're even further constructed, we can't afford too many sinkers. Especially now, the problem is if he sinks, you can't rock with them, and you've lost depth at the position that can swim when you're called upon. Because listen, Duke Riley's a depth beast, but he can still swim at times. Listen, we've all seen him have the reps at sink. But you get what I'm saying? So, listen, man, this is why they're paid millions upon millions of dollars, because these are the nuanced problems, right, that other people don't talk about, and we talk about over here. And I like that. That was a good conversation right there, Jason. Good back and forth. Good points made by you. I think I made some valid points too. And so, yeah, good conversation. Appreciate that. Good stuff. So tonight, we are, like I said, we're going to cope together. All of us who were not the Luau with Tua. We'll go over some things he said. On top of that, Audition Day is coming up, and we cover this every year. A bunch of local prospects are coming out. The Dolphins invite, this is why they draft so many Hurricanes, because they just invite so many down there. Plus, PFF, they power ranked all 32 teams before the draft. Braxton Berrios, something that went under the radar by everyone. Braxton Berrios said he's down to do whatever for the Dolphins. Marcel Louis-Jacques put out an article about it. And we're going to talk about that. Chase Edmonds had some interesting comments about his time last year with the Dolphins. We'll go over that article in the Tampa Bay Times. Again, like we covered yesterday with Xavier Holiday out of ASU. I watched him a little bit yesterday. I just didn't have time to clip him up. I'm probably going to hit to Twitter with him tomorrow. Yeah, I can see why they like him. I can't believe he slipped by my radar considering how much I loved Rachaad White last year. But I could see why they like him. And I think I don't know if he'll fly under the radar to UDFA, but if you can get him as a UDFA, that's very intriguing. Anyways, another small school guy is, the Dolphins are interested in. I'm going to just update you guys on that, so on and so forth. So we got a little bit to go over tonight. On top of that, hey, Tyreek's still putting in the work, and we'll look at that. We will look at that. All right. So let's get into this. Let's start it off. First of all, let's start off with Tyreek. Tyreek putting in that work. Look at Tyreek. Tyreek out here putting in that Cook him. Oh, look at those feet. Let's go. Look at that work, man. I haven't had this much fun watching him and Waddle, two players like that. Man, JHI was fun to watch, but he only had like really 2 games, like consistently. I loved watching Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, man. They were just real fun to watch, and these 2 guys they're probably the funnest to watch since those guys. And then before that, obviously, you get into like Randy and Chris, and Jarvis was fun to watch. Jarvis was fun to watch for sure, but these 2 might be the funnest to watch. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just so special, man, and we're just so blessed to have Tyreek Hill on the Miami Dolphins, man. It's unbelievable. A guy who puts up 1,700 yards in his first year in a new system with a new team with a new quarterback. Just so talented. It's unreal, man. So, man, just blessed, man. Blessed to be watching these type of players don the aqua and orange, man. It's good stuff. So let's get into the Luau with Tua. The Luau with Tua from yesterday. First of all, if you didn't see it, I mean, you got to see Jason Taylor up here putting in that work. That's just awesome stuff, man. Like that was incredible, man. Shout out to Jason Taylor. I mean, we saw Mike McDaniel get up. I believe Raheem Mostert got up on the stage yesterday too. We saw Mike McDaniel get up on the stage last year, man. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna bust my behind to try and get out there. I'm gonna try bust my butt to try and get out there next year. Real talk. That just looks like an incredible experience, man, and it's for such good causes. I know the Jason Taylor Foundation was one of the causes they were going for this year, so just awesome stuff, man. And it's just like, I don't know if you guys saw the video of Mike McDaniel. This man bought this big picture of Dan Marino and Tua Tagovailoa. It was just awesome, and of course, the head coach of the team bought it. Like, it's just awesome stuff. Now, I know it wasn't the same as last year because it was indoors because of weather. Obviously didn't permit this year, but it just looks like an incredible time, an incredibly good cause to be a part of. I mean, hey, you never know what you're going to see. I mean, how many people walked into that building yesterday expecting to see Tua's fantastic stash? Who was expecting to see that? Someone tell me. Who was walking in and expecting to see this man stashed up? MF, I'm trying to. I'm working on it. It's in the works as we speak. So, man, it just it's just an incredible cause. It's worth being I know it's a little expensive, but hey, when it's for such a good cause, it's worth it, man. It's worth it. So shout out to Tua, and just having a quarterback this involved and bringing the teammates out, and you see the coach coming out with his family. It's just it's awesome to see the culture and the energy around this team has just shifted and it's changed for into such a positive way. So it's just awesome, man. Ken says, donates 49, said, reason wants to go there in hopes to see the Queen of Thickness, Joy Taylor. Bro, you know me too well. Not a lie was just spoken. All right? Not a single lie was spoken. All right? I don't know what did you got me. You know what I mean? So, oh, man. You already know what time it is, man. There is no slander on that channel for that woman. Yep. Just saying. If she was in a holy text, I'd pray to her. Let me tell you that much. So, anyways, it is what it is. Don't let it ever be what it ain't. All right. So let's hop into this and let's start off with Hal Habib. Good old Hal. Hal came through and he said Tua at the Luau, smiling a lot more, already itching to get things rolling for 2023. It wasn't just the new mustache that was making a statement for Tua Tagovailoa on Monday night. The rest of his face was too. How do I feel compared to a year ago? I'm smiling a lot more, he said, so I would say good. Tua, looking fit, upbeat, and relaxed, was hosting a second annual Luau with Tua community event at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, drawing scores of teammates and coaches, including Mike McDaniel. For many, it was the first look at Tagovailoa since Christmas when he suffered a concussion against Green Bay that ended his season. After suffering at least 2 known concussions in 2022, he has been focusing on ways to stay healthy, adding jiu-jitsu to his training to help him fall without banging his head on the turf. Offseason training has been good, he said. Been working on strength in my areas and been chipping away. It's not chapping, it's chipping, because I've seen the video clip quote, and been chipping away at things that I felt I needed to work on to get where I feel like I can get into the later parts of the season. So there you go. Right away, Tua knows it's instrumental for me and this team and this franchise that I've got to be there for them later on in the season. And I like hearing that. I like hearing that he, even out of his own words, out of his own mouth, his own words, he's saying, I'm taking the necessary steps to be available for a long playoff run for this team. Love it. And I guarantee you guys, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the competitor in Tua, watching the Dolphins in the playoffs and not being able to trot out onto that field and be a contributor, I'm going to tell you that's motivated him more than anything anyone said on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever your favorite social media outlet is. I'm going to tell you this right now. That's what lit the fire under him. After seeing the Dolphins reach the playoffs in his first season with McDaniel and Tyreek Hill, Tagovailoa has watched with interest as the team has made more additions, including all-pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. Even though the draft hasn't even taken place yet, Tagovailoa admitted he's itching to get things rolling in preparation for the season. I'm very excited, he said. I think our team is excited to get back out there, get to meet a lot of our newer guys, and guys who have been in the system for a whole year now. It's very exciting. And I think a lot of fans and community, everyone is very supportive. The buzz was evident from the crowded ballroom Monday night, despite the day-long downpour that forced the luau indoors. The event benefited the Tua Foundation, the Jason Taylor Foundation, and Special Olympics, with a focus on children education and extracurricular activities. The Polynesian culture, this is my culture, Tagovailoa said. My Samoan culture that raised me. One thing that I did see a lot of growing up was giving back to the community, giving back to those that have helped my parents, those that have helped my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles. Tagovailoa showed off the new stash, even though if it were his choice, it would have been gone by Monday night. The mustache is new, he said. I don't necessarily like the mustache. My wife likes my mustache, so that's why I left the mustache. I was going to cut it all off. And there you see Nalu, his mother, and look at that is a full head of hair on that son. Shout out to Tua's son's hair. That is quite the do. So, very impressed. Shout out to Tua. And, again, just a big positive seeing, he recognizes he's got to be here later in the season, and that it's vital to our success. It's vital to this franchise's success right now, and it's vital to the success of the players around him. I'm telling you, more so than anything that anyone said on TV, on social media, whatever. Not being able to get out there and compete with his teammates. I'm telling you right now, that is what is motivating him to be ready, to be prepared. And we saw what a motivated, we saw the elevation in play from Tua last year. First 12 weeks, it was him and Patrick Mahomes. Him and the best quarterback, best natural thrower of the football we've seen since, Dan Marino. Patrick Mahomes, okay? Tua was in the MVP conversation with him for the first 12 weeks before, injuries started to pile up and a tough stretch happened there. So, I don't know. Even though it looked like before that final concussion, he was getting back to that MVP discussion form in that Packers game, right? Before that concussion took him out. So, we'll see. We saw what motivation, how it elevated his play. Now we're probably going to see it motivate him. It's going to motivate him to do his damnedest to be in his best shape and to stay healthy and prepared. So, man, shout out to Nick Hicks doing everything. It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So excited to have Nick Hicks on this offseason like we do every offseason. So Nick Hicks will be back on, and he's adding to his roster. He will have even more people. Alec Ingold's with him now. So many more people to talk about him, and so many little nuggets with all the receivers and everyone coming out to work with him this year. So Nick Hicks will be on the channel. It'll be his third or fourth time on the channel. I was the first one in the in the Dolphins community to feature him, and I'm the first one to feature him multiple times, let alone this will be his fourth or fifth time on the channel. So it's going to be exciting stuff. Can't wait to have him on in a couple weeks' time. So be on the lookout for that. But let's get back into it. Every year, the Dolphins, they bring out prospects, and this year for Audition Day, several Canes, a QB, and a tackle for loss specialist amongst those auditioning for the Dolphins. The Dolphins will welcome a slew of Miami Hurricanes and former South Florida Prep High School standouts to their Miami Gardens facilities on Friday on their annual local day. Over their history, the Dolphins have had more players on their roster from University of Miami than any other school, and the Dolphins have always embraced players with local ties. The NFL permits teams to invite players who attended college or high school in their geographic areas to attend a designated local day. They're the only imagine if you were in like some of those Texas places. Jesus. They're the only draft prospects who are permitted to do on-field work at NFL facilities. By contrast, players invited to team headquarters for 30 visits can meet with coaches and executives and do medical testing but cannot work out. Many of the players auditioning Friday for the Dolphins will be fringe NFL prospects who are likely to go undrafted and will be seeking a rookie minicamp invitation or contract after the draft. Some of the players considered better prospects are typically invited to a Thursday night dinner with Dolphins officials. Friday's group is expected to include tight end Will Mallory, who was on he was in my top 15 tight ends. I like that. Offensive lineman DJ Scaife and Justice Oluwasun, and cornerback DJ Ivy, among other Hurricanes. Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, the Canes' top draft prospect, isn't planning to attend the Dolphins' local day because he has a 30-visit scheduled with another team on Friday. NFL teams rarely announce who's invited to the local days, but sources have said those were among other players that are expected to attend Dolphins' local day. Quarterback Todd Centillo, the former West Palm Beach Dwyer High standout, played 3 years at Temple, 2 at Colorado State, and 1 at James Madison, finishing with 48 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, including 25 and 5 last year for JMU. Safety Gervin Hall, who played 4 years at University of Miami and picked off 1 pass before transferring to Utah State last season, where he had an interception in 8 games. Defensive linebacker Kyvon Bennett, the former St. Thomas Aquinas standout, had 6.5 sacks in 20 games at Tennessee, then had 12.5 sacks in 23 games at Arkansas State the past 2 years. He's a son of former Buffalo Bill All-Pro linebacker Cornelius Bennett. Tight end Daniel Barker, the Deerfield Beach High alum, had 21 catches for 239 yards, 2 touchdowns at Michigan State last season. Before that, he played 4 years at Illinois, catching 64 passes for 827 yards and 11 touchdowns. Offensive lineman Kadeem Telfort, the 6'8" Booker T. Washington alum, was UAB's left tackle last season and was first team All-Conference USA. Linebacker Vendarius Cohen, the Palm Beach Gardens alum, played 1 year at Alabama, 3 at West Virginia, and last season had 13 tackles in 8 games for Maryland. Defensive back Datron Young, the Delray Beach Atlantic grad, had an interception and 7 passes defended in 4 years at Iowa State, then had an interception and 7 passes defended in 1 year at Duke. And guard Grant Miller, the former St. Thomas Aquinas standout, was rated by Pro Football Focus as the 4th best guard in the Big 12 last season and 60th best among all FBS guards. He was named All Big 12 by Pro Football Network. Safety Marquise Waters, the Delray Beach Atlantic guard, had 3 interceptions and 16 passes defended in 4 years at Duke, then had 2 interceptions in 2 seasons at Texas Tech. He had 13 tackles for a loss. His 13 tackles for a loss were 5th in the Big 12 last season. Impressive for a safety. He has 27 career tackles for a loss. Southeast Missouri receiver Johnny King, the former Boyd Anderson standout, had 69 catches for 797 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. There are others that we'll mention in a column later this week. So there are some names for you guys to look into if you're not familiar with already that will be attending the local day. But, you know, aside from a guy like Will Mallory, like, I think, you know, there are guys who I think will be drafted, but a lot of these guys I think will be UDFAs. I think Barry was right on that. So I do think there will guys in that'll be drafted from University of Miami, obviously, but UDFAs for sure coming out of there too. So we'll see how it all pans out on draft night. Again, man, we are only 16 days away from night 1 of the draft. Shout out in the comments to the donation. Aaron with the donation said, "Let's effing go, Reason. Samoan Sniper's back, baby." Man, I'm telling you, like, that's a talking point that's not being discussed enough. Look at the elevation in play last year when he was motivated to shut everyone up. Now we're going to see the elevation in play and the elevation in an effort to stay healthy. Going to be awesome. I think we saw it one last year, and we're going to see it again. Career year from Tua Tagovailoa on the way. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Beautiful stuff, man. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So we'll see how it all pans out. Now, PFF, they dropped an interesting article. What they were doing was they have done what a couple other outlets have done that we've covered. They power ranked all 32 teams heading into the NFL draft. So where do the Dolphins fall? Let's find out. So power ranking all 32 teams. Chiefs, 49ers, and Eagles rise to the top. The first wave of free agency has come and gone. The Bengals, Browns, Lions, Dolphins, Vikings, Seahawks emerged as early offseason winners, while the Cardinals, Ravens, Packers, and Raiders all have ground to catch up as we head into April. Next up, the NFL draft. A golden opportunity for franchises to add young talent and build for the future. With that, we wanted to look at where all 32 NFL teams stand before the draft season really gets going. We'll evaluate the league's teams by looking at the players they had at the end of 2022 season, who they lost and gained in free agency, and the remaining salary cap space available to them should they wish to add final touches to their roster before the season kicks off. Still catching up on from the free agent frenzy. Look at, you can see who the winners were in terms of PFF WAR gained and lost. Look at, I want you to look at this chart right here. Biggest free agency moves. I want you to realize this. Okay? They have 10 names on here, right? Dolphins have 2 of the top 7 names out of the top 10 players who be added by WAR. Now, PFF has adopted WAR. Some of y'all might not know what WAR is. WAR is, it's a baseball stat basically. So, it's it's kind of a metric, that, it's basically wins above replacement, and it's one PFF metric that they try to explain positional value with it, right? And that's the main thing they're trying to explain with it. Wins above replacement, but they're trying to explain positional value. So look at this. 2 of the top 10 by their PFF Ward metric were added. Ramsey number 1 by a mile here. Let's be honest. And then David Long right there in the back end. So very positive stuff. So that's going to bump us up. So number 1, they got the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, right? Number 2, San Fran. Look at biggest loss, Jimmy G, but the biggest gain, Sam Darnold. That's crazy. Eagles are number 3. Bills are 4. So they have the biggest gain by Wars, Damien Harris. Biggest loss is Tremaine Edmonds. I told y'all, Edmonds, and I have them lower than 4 because I think Edmonds and Leslie Frazier, they're in a metric that's going to quantify Leslie Frazier's loss. Cincinnati, they're at 5. Biggest gain, losing Orlando Brown. That's hilarious. Dallas Cowboys, they're at 6. Every year, these people put them in the top 10, and every year the Cowboys let everyone down who puts them in the top 10. Chargers at 7. Look at that. Biggest loss. Everyone knows how badly I wanted Drew Tranquil. Look at the war above replacement for him. Huge. Minnesota at 8. At number 9. People are starting to get worried. Number 9, the Ravens. Yeah, there we are. Number 10. Miami Dolphins, the biggest gain, Jalen Ramsey. Biggest loss, Mike Gesicki. Cornerback Jalen Ramsey and linebacker David Long will immediately contribute to the Dolphins defense. Ramsey has the highest PFF grade, highest PFF coverage grade, and highest PFF run defense grade among all cornerbacks since 2016. And only 4 linebackers earned a better PFF run defensive grade than Long in 2022. With head coach Mike McDaniel and QB Tua Tagovailoa, Miami might be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC East. So I see no Jets. I see no Patriots in the top 10. I do think we were sold a little short. I think we're higher than 10. I think we're top 6 team in the NFL right now, if you want my honest opinion. So, and I agree with Scotty. Baltimore at 9 with what's going on with Lamar. Yeah, I don't know. And even OBJ doesn't move the needle for me. Everyone, you want a really good exercise? Go look at all of OBJ's 100-yard games during presidential administrations. Go look at it. It's hilarious. Anyways, yeah, top 10. Listen, I respect the fact you put us in the top 10. Hell, I respect the fact you even said we might be a force to be reckoned with. Sold us a little short on that. Our roster is unbelievable. Ain't no one going to tell me we're that low. So let's keep it going. Braxton Berrios. Not enough people covering this for y'all guys, and I'm really shocked. Braxton Berrios, and everyone knows, again, I talk about this every time his name comes up. Everyone knows how much I love this guy and love this edition. Love, love, love. All right? I loved the David Long edition. I love Jalen Ramsey. I love the Deshaun Elliott edition, and I love Braxton Berrios right up there with him, too. Everyone knows I wanted him last year. We got him this year. I think this guy, oh, man, homeboy, too, product. I love it. Braxton Berrios has at least one clearly defined role with the Miami Dolphins. He will be the return man in 2023 unless he cedes the job to someone else. Since entering the league in 2019, the Dolphins' recent signee has the 7th most total return yards in the NFL, and he's averaged the 2nd most yards per punt return. He was an all-pro at the position in 2021 for the New York Jets. Berrios Jones, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, who are both skilled returners at one point in their careers. But quietly, he also combines with Hill and Waddle to form arguably the best receiver true in the NFL. What have I been saying in terms of creating separation? What have I been saying to all of y'all? Berrios is going to have a career year under Tua. Watch. Waddle, Berrios, and Hill, Berrios and Waddle with Tua, they can combine for around 4,000 yards between the three of them. I truly believe that. Berrios said, they're truly one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. I can't wait to get in that room and just watch and learn from them. And you see Berrios is already working with Waddle's footwork guy. And hear how they see the game or how they see the route against this coverage and all the variations. So obviously I'm down to do whatever, whenever. And I've always been that way. And maybe, if they take the top off, I'll work across the middle or I'll work outside. I'll really do whatever it takes to win. Love the attitude, baby. Let's go. Braxton Berrios didn't turn heads with his receiving output last season, recording his 18 catches for 145 yards on 32 targets, all the fewest since his rookie season in 2019. But here's the problem. The Jets' below-average quarterback play was more to blame for his lack of production. He still performed at an elite level as a separator. His 4.01 average yards of separation were second to only Arizona Cardinals receiver Greg Dortch. I mean, he was doing it. Shout out in the chat for the $20 donation to the homie 300 Egos. Let's be real here. The reason you're the best in content is because you always present it in the directions of the team. That is important when making content, not those Jerry Springer and Whack Pack shows on YouTube. Much love. I appreciate that, 300 Egos. That's what I try to do. I try to, decipher how this team moves the best possible way. This is why we break down schemes and, we look back at the history of how these people draft and et cetera, et cetera. It's because I try to give you guys the best educated and objective opinions and takes and content related to the Dolphins. So I appreciate you, Egos, for noticing that. That means you noticing that means more than the $20 donation. Know that. All right? That puts a smile on my face because when people notice that, when people see that, I'm happy because I know for some people who are naive enough to listen to platforms that don't know what they're talking about and continuously lie and twist narratives, you struggle with the fact that are those type of people going to understand? You know what I mean? So I appreciate you, Egos, for being one of those people that isn't naive and that understands. I appreciate it. So back to this. I like a lot of things about Braxton, McDaniel said. Oh, hold on a sec. My bad. He was second in terms of average yards of separation to Arizona Cardinals receiver Greg Dortch last season. And while 24% of his 176 routes run last season were vertical, playing under Dolphins head coach and offensive play caller Mike McDaniel will allow him to utilize a more diverse route tree. I like a lot of things about Braxton, McDaniel said. I like that he's a playmaker. I like the more assets that we have in terms of being able to make plays with the ball in their hands, the better. You guys know I feel like we have an elite distributor in Tua Tagovailoa. So if you have scorers, to use a basketball reference, I see Braxton as a scorer, a guy that can make plays with the ball in his hands. So those elements are extremely exciting, as well as really getting a boost for our special teams to make some plays in the kicking game. I think that's where I'm hoping our both offensive and defensive units are going. Special teams will be that much more important because field position will be that much more of an advantage for us. That's the hope. So excited to have him and excited to go work with him soon. Hill and Waddle were used interchangeably in the slot last season, spending 33% and 18% in their offensive snaps at that position, respectively. And Berrios figures to join that rotation after the Dolphins saw the third leading receiver, Trent Sherfield, sign with the Buffalo Bills this offseason. But don't slot Berrios in as a slot receiver. He spent 42% of his snaps in the slot last season, but also spent 42% of them out wide. The 50-year pro said he didn't limit himself to learning only one position during his formative years and is comfortable playing all three receiver spots. I didn't necessarily study slots, Berrios said. I studied receivers across the board just because I think you can take pieces from everybody. And whether it's a release, whether it's the top of the route, high pointing the ball, whatever it is, I'm willing to play wherever, whenever and whatever. And that's something that I've tried to work on a ton this offseason, is to work outside, obviously, as well as inside and in the backfield. And again, wherever they need me, wherever there's a place, wherever there's an opportunity, I'm fully in on it. Hill and Waddle combined for 3,066 receiving yards last season, could approach or exceed that figure if Tagovailoa remains healthy for 17 games. Behind them, Berrios will compete with Cedric Wilson, River Craycraft, who's putting in the work too, and Eric Izukama for targets, none of whom were particularly productive receivers last season. But between the departures of Sherfield and Mike Gesicki, there are 103 targets the Dolphins must replace in 2023. Bears, despite a down year in 2022, should be first in line to do so. So if we got a little over 100, and let's say rounded at 105, targets, I could see him taking up probably about 50, 60 of those for sure. Berrios, there, Waddle and Hill can take you over top, and he'll take you underneath. It's going. These three guys are going to be dynamic, man. I'm telling you. Fantasy football sleeper this year, Braxton Berrios as a good depth stash, as a guy you want to fill in. Look at Braxton. Braxton's going to be a beast this year. And he offers a lot in the return game too. So I wanted to go over a portion of this article from the Tampa Bay Times. Just talking about Chase Edmonds' time, just because I thought it'd be interesting for you guys to see this here. So, why running back Chase Edmonds has a lot to prove with the Bucs. Edmonds says last season was the worst of his career, split between the Dolphins and the Broncos. Chase Edmonds thought he had made it. Shortly after signing a 2-year, $12.6 million contract with the Dolphins last year, the former Fordham star lost his edge. No longer having to fight for a roster spot the way he did for 4 seasons in Arizona, he admits he exhaled. That's when Edmonds' career was thrown for loss. You're like, okay, things are finally turning around for yourself. Things are finally up and up, said Edmonds, who signed a 1-year contract with the Bucs last month. And, last season was just straight up my worst season ever. In all my years of football, performance-wise, it was just not up to my standard at all. It's very humbling. I remember coming into the NFL, my chip was so big. Being a football championship subdivision guy, I was always had to scrap and work for everything. And not that I lost the chip, but year 3, year 4, I was playing a lot of snaps. I was really one of the guys in the locker room, and the human natural reaction is like content. You know what I mean? Like you don't have that same drive. After only 8 games with the Dolphins, Edmonds had rushed 42 times for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, a career low 2.9 average. He also caught only 10 passes for 96 yards and a score. The Dolphins traded Edmonds along with a 2023 first-round pick, a 2022 fourth-round pick to the Broncos in exchange for outside linebacker Bradley Chubb, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. And then he played only 5 games with them. So, I mean, you see it. I mean, good on, you got to give Edmonds his props. He was a man, and he admitted, hey, I lost that edge into my game. I wasn't playing at the same level. I got paid, and I got comfortable. A lot of people won't admit that. So, hey, good on him for admitting that I got comfortable and I got to be better. Now, not good on him for getting comfortable in Miami, because that affected us. But in the end, we got Bradley Chubb out of it. So am I really going to complain about Chase Edmonds? They turned a negative situation into a very positive one with the addition of Bradley Chubb. Let's be honest. And again, this is why I go back to me not fully buying in to the whole, Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, sticking around solely on McDaniel and our staff saying they can get him right, because we saw Chase Edmonds was one of his first moves, and we saw how quickly he sent that man in an Uber and out of town and tried to right his wrong. Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg still reek of Chris Greer's hands all over them due to their draft status. So, finally here, another guide for you guys to keep an eye on. Harlan Hill nominee, Carson Newman, standout wide receiver. Braxton Westfield, has drawn interest from the Miami Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills, the Titans, the Jags, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Steelers, the Commanders, the Seahawks, the Panthers, the 49ers, source says. All these teams have either spoken to Westfield, his coaching staff, or his agent. The 6'4", 205-pound Stars Pro Day numbers were off the charts. 4'4", 540, 10-foot 8-inch broad, 37-inch vert, 15 bench reps, 4.46 short shuttle, 78.5-inch wingspan, 10-inch hands, 34-inch arm length. Westfield, who also played at the CGS small school, was brought. The All-Star game, the CGS All-Star game, but was brought up by scouts to stay the remainder of the bowl week for the big school portion. One of 7 players to get pulled up. NFL scout. One word comes to mind for Braxton: impressive. The pro comps given to him have been Chris Godwin and Mike Williams. So, again, like running back, you see the Dolphins seem to be sniffing. We're starting to get names and feelers for the positions they are eyeing potential UDFAs at, right? Like when you add in Jaleel McLaughlin and the name we heard yesterday, Xavier Alade. I mean, it certainly looks like UDFA market is where, unless someone special drops in their lap, UDFA market seems like where they're going to look. Finn9113 says, linebacker talk has died lately. I would love one. So would I. And I know they would. But it's going to take the right guy falling in their lap. So we'll see how that, we talked about earlier. We know they're high on Owen Popo. We know they're high on DeMarvion Overshown. We know they're high on Jack Campbell. But, are they going to, A, or which one of those guys is going to be there at 51? And B, are they going to pull the trigger on any of them? I mean, they spoke with Trenton Simpson at the Combine, and he's the one that looks like he might be slipping and be there at 51. So it's going to be all about what they're going to pull the trigger on. And then it's also going to be about, okay, there's some linebackers I like on the board, but there's also some defensive tackles, and let's say there's some offensive tackles. To me, out of those 3, if you got 3 identified position of needs at 51 and players available at each one that you like, to me, you take best player available out of all those. So, and Aladino, that boy, Bradley Chubb, will show you his full potential this year. Malik Reed's going to help him and Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is going to enter. I already think he's on the cusp of a top 10 pass rusher. He's entering that this year. I think he's going to be reaching for a top 5. I think Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb under Vic Fangio this year are going to eat. So it's going to be exciting to watch. Joel, if Simpson falls to 51, do we pull the trigger? See, and you say yes. You say yes, but we don't know who else is on the board. So that's easier said than done. Listen, you already know what me and Neil are going to do. We do it every year. We're going to do our mock draft where we hand select. We'll probably do 3 round. We're going to do a 3-round mock so we can get 2 picks in for you. But when you do your own mocks, listen, I got an exercise for you. All right? An exercise. Go into your favorite mock simulator. Select every team. Do the first 3 rounds. Draft unbiasedly and objectively for every other team. That way you'll see more realistic results of what fall to you at 51 and 84 than you will as to some simulator that just does it themselves and just goes off all these different algorithms and stuff. Do it yourself and you'll be interested. You'll start to have more of a feel of who's going to be available at 51 and 84 if you draft for every team objectively and unbiasedly. Little trick. Check that one out, okay? It's a little bit more work, obviously, but you'll have more of a realistic outcome, I believe. Now, you won't be able to account for trades and such, but you still will have a realistic outcome in terms of people that'll be available at 51 and 84. So it's a decent exercise to try. Go try it out. All right? So, because, that's what I do for my 3-round mocks, right? When I do them. And this year, man, it's going to be fun stuff. So, I'll be live tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Me, Richmond, ball game. We'll be going over Richmond's cruise and everything like that, discussing everything. It'll be a real good time. So come check it out tomorrow, another episode of Finish Line. And then on Thursday, draft talk and all of that, me and Neil, as we dive fin too deep. Sunday, I'll be dropping my big board for linebackers. And then if anything breaks on Friday or Saturday or happens that's newsworthy in between, we'll go live for that. As always, guys, I appreciate everyone who donated. Smash the like button, please. Over 330 of you in the chat. Smash the like button. It takes a second. Please help me out. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. If you want to become a Patreon, patreon.com/Phinside The NFL. Latest episode of 3 Takes went up, and I talked about the 5 names I'm heard that they're very interested in on defensive tackle between 51 and 84. So check it out. Until next time, tomorrow night, Fins up all day, every day, and we'll see all y'all in the next one.